All right, Ryan, thanks. You're watching a live simulcast of breaking news coverage of a bridge collapse at Highway 70 and Highway 149. Live Copter 3 HD is over the scene with some pretty dramatic pictures of a man who's still trapped below.
Yeah, you can see the sense of urgency from rescue crews there. We have an understanding at least 75 members from several different agencies, at least 3 different agencies, trying to extricate this man from a FedEx truck. And unfortunately, from this accident, there was another accident about a quarter mile down the road where a Caltrans truck was parked and a woman rear-ended that and has been severely injured there as well.
Pretty much the last thing they needed right now is something else to divert attention from there, but that's a pretty strong scene too. You can already see the ambulance is there ready to take that person presumably to the Oroville Hospital, where Leslie Mann, who we just talked to a few minutes ago, said as soon as that call came in, they went on alert, letting the trauma teams know that this is the situation, these are the potential injuries we could have coming in, and these are the people who need to be ready to go as soon as the people get here. And
here's what we do know about the injuries at this point. One individual who was on top of the overpass at the time of the collapse rode out the collapse and has been sent to the Oroville Hospital. That individual was treated and then transported to a trauma unit via helicopter to Enloe Hospital, where there's a trauma unit there. There's still one individual, as we can see the crews frantically trying to free from that FedEx truck. John Hamilton has reported earlier that he did see an individual with a neck brace on and was speaking to the rescue crews there. So at least at this point, that individual is conscious. And then, of course, the one lady back that rear-ended the truck there as well. So at least 3 injuries stemming from this overpass collapse at this point.
And if you've been watching our coverage here, we've been covering this for now live straight for about an hour. You're probably thinking, well, why don't they just pull this guy out? You know, well, the reason is because they don't want to cause further injury, not only to him physically, but also to this area. It's a very precarious situation, and if they don't shore this area up before they try to do the real removal of those beams, they could have a situation much worse with more injuries. Mark Dinger from Caltrans back on the phone with us now. Mark, what's the latest you're hearing?
Well, the latest we're hearing right now is first, of course, our #1 priority is to make sure the driver of that delivery truck is extracted. And then next up, we're going to see what we need to do to try to stabilize this structure and, of course, get traffic around it.
Mark, is the structure, has it been compromised? I'm talking about, I know this is false work that is for the overpass, but any other parts of the overpass been compromised at this point?
No, just this portion of the structure has been compromised. Apparently, the driver is conscious and able to carry on a conversation. So, you know, at this point, you know, they're just trying to make sure that they can get him out of there safely. There's not much left of that truck.
Mark, before we let you go, what can you tell us about this project?
Well, this project, it's a $105 million project we began last year, and the intent of the job is to widen Highway 149 between Chico and Oroville from 2 to 4 lanes. Part of the project, and the biggest part of the project, is to make new interchanges at Highway 70 and also Highway 90.
The cranes there that they're trying to use to make sure that no other steel beams fall down on that accident.
And essentially, it looks like I was counting three big beams that are over the truck, although it's kind of hard to tell.
One in front and one in back.
It looks like
about the timing.
Sticks.
Yes, you talk about the timing of hitting that truck probably in the best possible location for that individual and not landing strictly right where the driver is at that point.
This guy's he's a FedEx driver and has now been trapped there since about 7:15 this morning. He's alert. He's talking with the crews that are out there. In the yellow, you can see some of the Cal Fire guys. You know, they're all trained paramedic types. You know, they're communicating with him, trying to help him. You've got to think, based on the way this thing is smushed like that he's got to be trapped and just cannot be pulled out or can't get himself out on his own. So they're in great contact with him. It looks like one of them is actually in the cab of the truck now.
Yes.
Trying to talk with him.
And you were talking about the steel beams. There's just, it's impossible to count them all. There's so many steel beams from this false work that has collapsed. To give you an idea of what traffic is doing right now, Brian Hickey left the Sacramento area about an hour ago. Still 26 miles away because traffic is now starting to get backed up very heavily in this situation. One other thing to report on this accident is that a Caltrans truck was parked about a quarter of a mile down from this accident scene, and an unfortunate individual rear-ended that truck and has been seriously injured. They're working on that as well at this scene. So as we understand it, at least 75 rescue crew members from 3 different agencies, CHP, Caltrans is on the scene, as well as the Butte County Sheriff's Department, trying to not only free this man but also help the woman that rear-ended the Caltrans truck a quarter mile down the way. One other individual was on top of the overpass when this overpass collapsed at the time. He rode out that, was transferred to the Oroville Hospital, and then was transferred to Enloe Hospital in Chico. Yeah, we heard from Janet Upton from CAL FIRE pretty much all morning long from the 7 o'clock hour that this individual was alert. He was streaming in and out of consciousness more towards the end, but has been conscious and as you were saying, Deirdre, speaking to the rescue personnel on site there throughout the morning.
Yeah, but as they take him out now, they're just about 15 minutes away from surgeons and a full crew of people. There's the arm wave there that they all got so excited about. Full crew of people waiting at Enloe Hospital to try to figure out what do they need to do next. Once he's on that helicopter and they keep going, Janet Upton was saying that there are a number of things that they can do to try to stabilize him. They can continue giving fluids, which helps reduce chances of shock. They'll keep an eye on his blood pressure, probably continue that whole concept of trying to talk to him and keep him comfortable. And then they're also in constant contact with the surgeons who are waiting back at the hospital. This is what we see. This is what we think is probably going to be what you're going to have to do.
And
so
Enloe Hospital
totally
was telling us that some of the blue, right there, the blue suit personnel, that is actually some of the personnel that will be transporting him in the helicopter, will be in the helicopter with him as they arrive to Enloe and their medical unit there. So obviously already doctors and experts on the scene, as well as the fire crew that worked so diligently to extricate this man over the last 2.5 hours.
In the trauma world, we learned the concept of the golden hour today, which basically means that from the time you're in a serious accident, doctors want to have you on an operating table if that's what you need. This is a guy who's now gone 2 hours past that time and at this point still looks to be fighting for his life. Brian?